The first deputy arrived 12 minutes after I shut off my well. That was how I knew something was wrong. I was standing beside my pump house in the Arizona heat, one hand still on the steel valve, watching the pressure gauge sit at 0. I had shut the well down for a pressure test because my water pressure had been collapsing for weeks. That was all. One private well, one private pump, one private pressure tank, sitting on my land, supplying my house, my horses, my garden, and the row of mesquite trees my father planted before he died. Then a sheriff's SUV rolled through my open gate. Behind it came a white county truck with water resources printed on the door, and behind both of them came Marjorie Wells in a black Escalade. Marjorie was the president of Silver Creek Estates, HOA, the gated desert community built against the south side of my ranch. She stepped out wearing a red blazer, sunglasses, and the kind of anger people use when they think someone below them has forgotten their place. She pointed at me before the deputy even shut his door. "That's him," she said. "He shut off our water." The deputy looked at me. "Sir, are you Caleb Turner?" "Yes." "Did you shut off water service to Silver Creek Estates?" I wiped sweat from my forehead. "No, I shut off my private well." Marjorie laughed like I had just lied in front of witnesses. "That well serves our clubhouse. Our restrooms are down. The fountain is off. The sprinkler system stopped during a board luncheon. He is sabotaging the community." I stared at her. "My well serves my house." "That is not true," she snapped. "We have been using the line behind your fence for over a year." For 1 second, everything went quiet. The county inspector lowered his clipboard. I said, "What line?" Marjorie blinked. "The water line." "What water line?" "The line to Silver Creek." The inspector stepped forward. His name was Dana Reed. He looked from Marjorie to the pump house, then toward the fence line, where I had noticed a strange patch of disturbed soil. "Mrs. Wells," he said slowly, "are you saying your HOA is connected to this private well?" She lifted her chin. "We have relied on it as part of established community access." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because I had spent 2 months trying to figure out why my pump was running at night, why my electric bill had jumped, why my pressure dropped every morning, and why my horses were waiting at half-empty troughs. And Marjorie had just answered every question in front of a sheriff's deputy. I said, "I never gave you access." She pointed at me harder. "You cannot just cut off water people depend on. It's my well. It supplies our clubhouse. Then your clubhouse is stealing water." Her face went pale behind the sunglasses. Dana stepped between us. "Nobody touches anything until we verify the source and the connection." Marjorie folded her arms. "This is a civil dispute." Dana looked at the pump house. "If there is an unapproved connection from a private potable well to an HOA clubhouse system, this is not just a civil dispute." Then he asked, "Do you have cameras on this pump house?" I looked up at the small black camera under the eave. Yes. That was the first moment Marjorie looked scared. I opened the camera app and scrolled back through motion alerts. 7 months earlier, at 1:42 a.m., a white utility truck had rolled up near my fence. 2 men got out with shovels. A third wore a Silver Creek maintenance shirt, and standing behind them with a flashlight was Marjorie Wells. The video showed them digging behind my pump house. Then it showed one of them feeding a small PVC line under the fence toward Silver Creek. The deputy leaned closer to the screen. Dana stopped writing. Marjorie said, "That does not prove anything." I looked at her. "You called 911 because I shut off the water you stole from me." By sunset, the county had taped a red notice on the Silver Creek clubhouse door. Unapproved water connection use prohibited. Their fountain was dry. Their restrooms were locked. Their sprinkler system was shut down. Their event lawn was already turning brown. And Marjorie Wells, who came to my ranch accusing me of sabotaging her HOA, was suddenly standing beside a sheriff's deputy, trying to explain why her community had been drinking from my private well without permission. "My name is Caleb Turner, and I grew up on Turner Ranch." It was not a huge ranch, 28 dry acres outside a fast-growing Arizona town, with one old house, a small horse pasture, a vegetable garden, a tool shed, and a private well my father saved almost 5 years to drill. In the desert, that well was everything. My father kept the well log in a plastic sleeve above the breaker box. He wrote down pump changes, pressure readings, filter replacements, electrical work, and every service call. He used to say, "In dry country, water is not a convenience. It is the line between home and dust. The well supplied our house, 4 horse troughs, a garden, an outdoor hydrant, and a row of trees my mother wanted planted along the drive. After she died, my father kept watering those trees even during the worst summers. When he got sick, I moved back full-time. I worked as a pump and irrigation technician, so keeping the system alive was something I could do. I knew that well better than most people knew their cars. I knew the sound of the pump. I knew how long the pressure tank should take to recover. I knew when something was wrong. Silver Creek Estates came later. A developer bought the land south of us and turned desert scrub into a gated community with stucco houses, palm-lined streets, a clubhouse, a pool, a fountain, 2 event lawns, and landscaping that looked like a resort brochure. Their marketing said desert luxury living. Their water usage said somebody was pretending the desert was not real. Before Silver Creek opened, the developer asked my father about a shared well agreement. My father refused. Then they offered money for backup irrigation. He refused again. Then they sent a formal proposal written like a partnership and priced like an insult. My father wrote across the top, "No shared water. No future obligation." After he died, Marjorie Wells tried again. Her first email was polite. She said Silver Creek valued good neighbor relations and wanted to discuss responsible resource sharing. I told her the well was private and not available. Her second email said the community had invested heavily in landscaping and needed long-term water stability. I told her to talk to a licensed utility provider. Her third email said my refusal was disappointing because the ranch and HOA were hydrologically connected. I told her being near my well did not create ownership. Then the email stopped. At the time, I thought she had given up. If you own a private well, a driveway, a pond, a gate, a road, or any piece of property that makes life easier for a nearby HOA, pay attention to this part. People do not always start by saying they are taking it. Sometimes they say they have always relied on it. Sometimes they call it a community resource. Sometimes they make you feel selfish for protecting what is yours. But none of those phrases are permits, deeds, easements, or written agreements. And if you have ever had an HOA or neighbor treat your private property like a shared utility, leave your thoughts in the comments, because I learned the hard way that the word community can become a mask for entitlement. For a while, Silver Creek just complained about normal ranch things: dust, horse smell, haystacks, a trailer visible from their walking path. One resident asked if I could move my horses because they made the area feel less premium. I told him the horses were there first. But nobody mentioned water anymore. Then, 7 months later, my well started acting strange. The first sign was the kitchen faucet. It coughed before sunrise. That was not normal. Our well had never been powerful like city water, but it had always been steady. Now the pressure was strong at night, weak in the morning, and unstable around midday. The pump cycled too often. The pressure switch clicked constantly. My electric bill jumped. Then the horse trough started filling slowly. Animals notice water problems before people do. My old mare, Dusty, kept nosing the float valve because the water was coming in too weak. The garden started looking tired. The trees along the drive began curling at the edges. I checked every line I could see. House line, garden line, trough line, outdoor hydrants. No obvious leak. No wet soil. No broken fitting. No flooded low spot. But the pump kept running. Meanwhile, on the other side of the fence, Silver Creek looked like a resort. Sprinklers ran before sunrise. The clubhouse fountain sprayed water into the air every afternoon. Their event lawn stayed green through a heat wave while my garden struggled. That made no sense. So I called my friend Gabe Ortiz, a well technician I trusted more than most doctors. Gabe listened to the pump, tested the pressure tank, checked the switch, inspected the control box, and walked the visible lines. After 2 hours, he leaned against the pump house and said, "Something is pulling water." "I know." "No, I mean beyond your system. This pump is acting like it is feeding another demand line. There is no other line." He looked toward Silver Creek. Then somebody made one. I did not want to believe that. It sounded too bold, even for Marjorie. So we kept testing. Gabe installed a pressure logger. We isolated the house. Stable. Garden line. Normal. Trough line. Normal. but pressure dropped at random times when every ranch side line was closed, usually early morning, sometimes afternoon. Almost always when Silver Creek sprinklers were running. I emailed Marjorie and asked if Silver Creek had any water infrastructure near my fence line. She replied, "Caleb, if you are finally willing to discuss responsible well sharing, the board is open to a reasonable conversation." I wrote back, "That is not what I asked." Her reply came 10 minutes later. "The community has relied on established access long enough that sudden interference would create serious consequences." Established access. That phrase stayed in my head. Gabe came back the next morning. He found a narrow strip of disturbed soil near the rear of my pump house, close to the fence. It had been cut, refilled, and tamped down. Not fresh, but newer than the surrounding desert crust. It ran from my pump shed toward Silver Creek. Gabe scraped at the dirt with his boot. "Do not dig it up yet," he said. "If they did what I think they did, you want county here when it comes out of the ground." So we set the test. I shut off the well breaker, closed the main valve, locked the pump house, and waited. My phone started ringing less than 20 minutes later. Silver Creek Management Office. Unknown number. Marjorie. Another unknown number. I did not answer. Less than 2 hours later, the sheriff arrived, followed by County Water Resources, followed by Marjorie. That was when suspicion became proof. Nobody should have known my private well was off, unless they were using it. The morning Marjorie called 911 was the best thing she could have done for my case. At the time, it felt like chaos. She stood in my driveway accusing me of cutting off water to elderly residents, even though Silver Creek homes were on municipal service. Dana Reed asked one question that changed everything. "What exactly lost water?" Marjorie said, "Our facilities." "Which facilities?" "The clubhouse, restrooms, fountain, irrigation zone, event lawn, and pool house supply." Dana asked, "Are the homes out of water?" She hesitated. "No, but that is not the point." It was absolutely the point. This was not a community emergency. It was a clubhouse emergency. Dana asked for my well documents. I had them in a binder inside the pump house. Well registration, deed, survey, pump invoice, pressure tank service record, electrical panel record, my father's old well log. Dana studied the documents and said, "This is a private, domestic, and agricultural well." Marjorie tried to say there had been an understanding. I opened my scanned files and showed Dana my father's written refusal to the developer. No shared water, no future obligation. Then I showed my own refusal emails to Marjorie. Dana stopped treating it like a neighbor dispute. He asked for camera footage. I had 3 cameras on that side of the ranch. The pump house camera had the clearest angle. We scrolled through old motion clips until we found the one from 7 months earlier. At 1:42 a.m., a white utility truck parked near my fence. 2 men dug behind the pump house. A third man wore a Silver Creek maintenance shirt. Marjorie stood behind them with a flashlight. The next clip showed PVC pipe. The next showed someone working near my service line. The camera did not catch every angle, but it caught enough. Deputy Harris took statements. Dana took photos. Gabe marked the trench path with flags. I saved the video to multiple drives before anyone could claim it disappeared. Then the documents started coming in. Gabe produced a written report showing unauthorized draw consistent with an unmetered secondary line. Dana requested utility plans from Silver Creek. At first, the management company sent a landscaping map, then an irrigation plan, then a revised plan with one line missing. Dana noticed the missing section and demanded contractor invoices. That was where the cover-up cracked. A plumbing contractor had billed Silver Creek for auxiliary irrigation tie-in near west boundary. The invoice did not mention my well, but an internal email did. Marjorie had written, "Do not put the well owner's name on the invoice. Use west boundary source." When my attorney Maya Ellison saw that email, she put it on top of the file and said, "This is the one." The next morning, Dana ordered the suspected line exposed. Marjorie objected immediately. She said digging would damage HOA infrastructure. Dana looked at her and said, "If the infrastructure is connected to a private well without approval, damage is the least of your problems." Gabe opened the trench near my fence with Dana watching. 3 feet down, the shovel hit white PVC. The pipe ran from behind my pump house, under the fence, and toward Silver Creek's clubhouse. Gabe traced it back to a hidden T on my service line, buried under gravel and covered with a loose panel. No meter, No backflow device approved by county. No permit. No easement. No agreement. Dana stood over the pipe for a long moment. Then he filled out a red notice and walked across to Silver Creek. That afternoon, the clubhouse doors were taped with county paper. UNAP-proved water connection use prohibited. The fountain shut down. The restrooms closed. The pool house was restricted. The sprinklers were locked. The event lawn was cut off. Marjorie had called 911 because I shut off my private well. By the end of the day, the county shut off her clubhouse. The legal twist was not that Silver Creek accidentally used a little water. There was no accident. Accidents do not happen at 1:42 in the morning with a utility truck, shovels, a hidden T, and an email telling someone not to put the well owner's name on the invoice. Accidents do not call 911 when the owner shuts off the supply they were never supposed to know about. Maya explained it plainly. They did not just trespass. They created an unauthorized utility connection to a private potable well. That creates property, health, regulatory, and liability issues. I had thought of the well as mine in a simple way. It was on my land. It served my ranch. Maya saw the bigger danger. If Silver Creek's clubhouse or irrigation system created backflow, contamination, pressure failure, or bacteria risk, my well could be damaged. If someone at the clubhouse got sick, Marjorie could try to blame my water. If the pump burned out, I would pay. They were not just taking water. They were making me carry their risk. Maya sent a demand letter to Silver Creek Estates, HOA, Marjorie personally, the management company, the plumbing contractor, and the developer. She demanded immediate removal of the illegal pipe, full records, payment for pump wear, electrical overuse, water testing, inspection costs, attorney fees, property restoration, livestock water disruption, garden loss, emergency water hauling, and damages for trespass and unauthorized use. Silver Creek's attorney responded with polished nonsense. Historical reliance, ambiguous boundary infrastructure, good faith belief, community necessity, no intent to harm. Maya answered with the video, the invoice, the permit records, the lack of easement, the pressure logs, my refusal emails, the exposed pipe photos, and Marjorie's instruction not to name me on the invoice. After that, their tone changed. The county issued a violation package. Silver Creek had to keep the clubhouse connection shut off until a lawful water source was verified. They had to remove the line under supervision, submit a cross-connection report, conduct water testing, provide contractor records, and pay penalties tied to the unapproved connection. The HOA rented portable restrooms for events. Then they canceled events. Then they hired water trucks to keep landscaping from dying. Then residents started asking why their dues had paid for a hidden pipe. Marjorie blamed me. At a public HOA meeting, she called me a water bully. She said I was holding the community hostage over a technicality. A technicality. That was what she called my well, my pump, my power bill, my horses, my garden, my father's trees, my legal rights. Maya attended the next meeting with me. She sat in the back row while Marjorie told residents Silver Creek had been unfairly targeted by an uncooperative ranch owner. Then one resident asked, "Did we have permission to connect to his well?" Marjorie said, "The access had been established." Maya stood up and held one page in the air. It was the email. "Do not put the well owner's name on the invoice. Use West Boundary Source." The room went quiet. Then she showed the still image from my camera. Marjorie standing beside the trench at 1:42 a.m. A man in the front row asked, "Why were you there at night?" Marjorie said, "That image lacks context." Maya said, "The context is buried behind his pump house." That was the moment Silver Creek residents realized the problem was not me. It was their board president. The official excavation happened under county supervision 2 days later. By then, Silver Creek looked different. The fountain basin was dry. The event lawn had yellow patches. The clubhouse restrooms had closed signs. A portable toilet trailer sat near the parking lot. Dana Reed arrived with another inspector from Environmental Health. Deputy Harris came too, mostly to keep everyone from turning a utility inspection into a shouting match. Gabe opened the trench. The pipe ran from my service line, under the fence, across a strip of desert landscaping, and into a valve box behind Silver Creek's clubhouse maintenance shed. Inside the valve box were 2 manual valves and a tag that said, "Aux Source." Dana photographed everything. Then he asked Silver Creek for the permit. They did not have one. He asked for the easement. They did not have one. He asked for the shared well agreement. They did not have one. He asked for county approval of a private well connection to a clubhouse system. They did not have one. Deputy Harris asked Marjorie who authorized the installation. She looked at the HOA attorney. The attorney said, "My client will provide written responses." Dana said, "The connection remains prohibited. The line will be capped and removed. The clubhouse cannot use this source." A resident nearby yelled, "Then what are we supposed to use?" Dana answered, "A lawful water source." That line spread through Silver Creek fast. A lawful water source. Such a small phrase. Such a big problem. The county ordered them to remove the pipe, restore my property, test my well water, inspect for backflow contamination, submit a corrective water plan, and pay fines. Maya also filed a civil claim for pump repairs, electric overuse, testing, restoration, attorney fees, trespass, and unauthorized utility connection. The plumbing contractor blamed Silver Creek. Silver Creek blamed the contractor. Marjorie blamed the developer. Everyone pointed somewhere else, but the pipe pointed one direction. From my well to their clubhouse. At the next public meeting, residents demanded answers. One man said his daughter's graduation party had been canceled. A woman asked whether dues would increase. Another asked if their clubhouse had been using my private water during events. Once residents heard the words cross-connection and water testing, the issue stopped being landscaping. It became health. Marjorie tried to regain control. "We made decisions in the best interest of the community," she said. An older resident stood up holding the county notice. "Did the community vote to steal a well?" Nobody laughed, because by then, the anger in the room had shifted completely. They were not angry at me for shutting off a well. They were angry at Marjorie for making their clubhouse depend on one she did not own. Maya presented the final demand. The HOA would remove the pipe, pay for repairs, reimburse excess electrical use, pay for testing, cover part of my legal costs, pay county penalties, stop claiming water access, correct internal records, disclose the violation to residents, and install an independent lawful water source before reopening the clubhouse systems. Marjorie called it excessive. Dana Reed said, "It is less expensive than contaminating a private well." That ended the debate. The pipe came out in sections. White PVC, dusty and scratched, laid on the ground like evidence of every lie Marjorie had told. Gabe capped my service line, replaced fittings, inspected the pump, and repaired the pressure tank system that had been worn down by months of overuse. My electric records proved the pump had been running far more than normal. Silver Creek paid. They paid for pump repairs. They paid for pressure tank work. They paid for water quality testing. They paid for soil restoration. They paid for trench repair. They reimbursed months of abnormal electrical usage. They paid county fines. They paid to haul water temporarily. They paid to redesign their clubhouse water system. And they paid in reputation. The clubhouse stayed partly shut down for weeks. Events were canceled. The fountain remained dry. The event lawn went brown along the edges. Marjorie did not survive that politically. At the recall meeting, she tried one last speech. She said she had inherited a difficult infrastructure situation. She said she only tried to preserve what residents paid for. Then someone played the camera clip. Marjorie at 142 a.m. flashlight in hand, men digging behind my pump house. Then the meeting showed her email. "Do not put the well owner's name on the invoice." That was the end. She resigned before the vote finished. Her resignation letter said she had been attacked for making hard choices. That was Marjorie until the end. She still thought stealing water was a hard choice. She still thought my well was a resource she had been unfairly denied. After the pipe was removed, I made changes. A new lock on the pump house, a flow meter, a pressure alarm, 2 more cameras facing the fence line, and a sign, "Privet well no community access." Some Silver Creek residents hated that sign. One man told me it was hostile. I told him it was accurate. A few residents apologized. One woman stopped by with a handwritten note and said she had no idea the clubhouse used my water. She said Marjorie told them there was a historic agreement. I believed her. Most residents were not villains. They were people who trusted the wrong person with a title and a microphone. They wanted a clubhouse, green grass, events, and property values. They did not ask enough questions about how those things were being supplied. The first morning after the system was repaired, I walked out before sunrise and opened the trough valve. Water rushed in strong. Dusty, my old mare, lowered her head and drank like nothing had happened. The sound hit me harder than I expected. Clean water into a metal trough. Steady pressure. No hidden draw. No pump fighting someone else's fountain. Just my well doing what my father drilled it to do. I walked to the row of trees he had planted for my mother and watered them slowly. The leaves were curled from weeks of stress, but they were still alive. That felt like winning. Not Marjorie resigning, not the county notice, not the settlement. That sound. Water where it belonged. I did not win because I was selfish with water. I did not win because I wanted a clubhouse shut down. I won because I protected the one resource that kept my ranch alive, and because I refused to let a private well become a community utility just because someone buried a pipe and hoped I would never notice. If this story made you think about private wells, water rights, easements, illegal utility connections, HOA overreach, or the way people use phrases like community resource to make private property sound negotiable, share it with someone who owns land near an HOA, a subdivision, or a developer. And tell me in the comments whether you think I was right to shut off my own well for testing, even though it exposed the clubhouse, or whether Silver Creek deserved every day it spent dry. Because water can run through a pipe, but ownership does not. A hidden line is not permission. A dry fountain is not an emergency. A clubhouse is not entitled to a ranch well. And when an HOA calls 911 because you shut off your own private water,